Detroit proudly beams with some of the most significant Black history and culture in the entire country. You just gotta know where to look.
That's right. Music, art, history, resilience, all of these things make up the fabric of Detroit's culture.
And today we will introduce you to the city's culture bearers.
Those preserving this rich history for future generations.
Hi everybody, I'm Winfrey.
And I'm Terrance. Friday, this Black History Month, we're celebrating those in our community who are working to preserve and amplify our rich history.
And there's a local group of archivists committed to documenting the experiences and realities of the since-destroyed Black Bottom neighborhood. Photojournalist Aaron Bryant takes us to that neighborhood.
This is our first version of large-scale map of Black Bottom that came as part of the Black Bottom Street View exhibit. My name is Marcia Black. I'm the co-executive director of Black Bottom Archives. But the boundaries that are represented on this map is Gratiot to the north. Black Bottom became a community that Black Detroiters made home. They built cultural institutions, icons that we still celebrate today. Coleman A. Young was from Black Bottom, Detroit. Irma Henderson grew up in Black Bottom, Detroit. Joe Louis grew up in Black Bottom, Detroit. They left an amazing impact, and that's a little bit about Black Bottom.
So these are pictures from our first storytelling salon. Black Bottom Archives is a living community archive that is dedicated to the preservation of Black stories, starting with Black Detroit stories specifically, starting with the Black Bottom neighborhood and blossoming out into other areas. I met this young lady here, Miss Debbie, at an event. When we talk to people, we actually get to feel like we were a part of it. And so like sharing those stories, preserving those stories is important because we want to be able to start with a neighborhood that was completely lost so that we can help to prevent other neighborhoods from being lost. She was able to identify her childhood home on the map.
This map was something Emily was able to crop and stitch together to make this holistic view of Black Bottom.
How it all turned out.
Black Bottom Street View was created by Emily Cudel, and she came across these photos that were taken by the city of Detroit as part of the surveying process of Black Bottom. And so when she came across those photos, she realized that she could stitch them together and get a street view. It's something that people resonate with so deeply, people who lived in the community, others who didn't, that it's just continued to be something that people want to see more and more. Historically, the land sat vacant for years before that project actually took place. So what would it have looked like for that development to actually result in affordable housing, right, which is still a debate in the city today? I think it would look a lot of the same of what we've been asking for, which is more investment into Black culture, Black businesses, and making it affordable for Black Detroiters to make home here.
They call themselves Club 48 because that's what year they graduated high school. And the magic that Black Bottom was, and every single person that we talk to, and every person is like eager to share their story. You could tell that it means a lot to them, and so powerful to watch one person recall their like walk home from school or something, and then for somebody else to be like, oh, that was so-and-so's store, or that was where so-and-so's pharmacy was. And so they're like feeding off of each other and like being able to like fill in memories for themselves because of the work that we do, making connections in the community and recognizing the importance of how people are interacting with our work. And so being able to share their stories. Such an honor to experience. So of these people here.
And that preservation of history is not just unique to Detroit's Black Bottom neighborhood.
Yeah, just north of that area in the 8 Mile community, one Detroiter tells our Terrell Bailey her love for the D runs deep despite some difficult parts of our history.
I'm compelled. I can't stop doing it if I wanted to. I say to myself a lot, oh, I'm tired. I don't want to do this no more. But I'm compelled. It's on my mind all the time to do something in my community.
Giving back to a community that's given so much to her, Teresa Moon is well known along 8 Mile in Detroit. She's been in the community for over 50 years and calls the area resilient. Across the street from Moon's home sits the Burwood Wall. The structure comes with a sordid past.
And the purpose of it was to divide two neighborhoods, the Black neighborhood from a white neighborhood that was going to be developed. The United States government backed the wall being built to separate these two communities.
Now it's a constant reminder to Moon of how far African Americans have come, but still how far we have to go. It's a piece of Detroit's history, which is why the structure is on the National Register of Historic Places. Decades later, murals cover it. All the while, the wall is home to African Americans on each side.
You know what? When I was growing up, we just called it the wall. When I began to learn that people were interested in the history of this wall, I know it's called the Burwood Wall, the Wailing Wall, the Segregation Wall, but we always just called it the wall. That's all it was to us.
Moon says growing up, she remembers her community taking care of each other. It's one of the many reasons she pays it forward.
I started a bike program in the community because when I was a kid, everybody had a bike. And I had noticed that I don't see any kids around here riding bikes. And I got about 250 bikes donated to me over this period of time, fixed them and gave them all away. If you could just see the looks on some of the kids' faces, it was the best feeling. It just felt so good.
She's experienced a lot in the city. She recalled to us one experience as a teen that stuck with her forever, and it all involved her and a friend taking a joyride on their bikes.
Riding our bikes to Telegraph and 12 Mile and rode past the Dairy Queen, and there's a bunch of kids out there, white kids. And when we rode past, they called us like, wow.
Now she and others have a community organization to help the area, both old and young, move forward, while also teaching them where they came from.
Every year we have a community picnic, and at our community picnic we do have resources, you know, like people registering people to vote, housing. And when we started doing that, I was able to see, well, the group was able to see the deep need of providing, you know, for people who can't provide for themselves.
As the city evolves and continues to change, what doesn't change is Teresa Moon's love for Detroit.
8 Mile for life.
And her 8 Mile community.
We call the ground over here sacred ground.
Terrell Bailey, CBS News, Detroit.
All of Detroit culture has impacted me.
Ahead, I introduce you to the local historian using walking tours to preserve and celebrate Detroit's history for generations.
Plus, we speak to an engineer at the top of his game, working to ensure the doors open for future generations. Welcome back. We are continuing to highlight those in our community who work to preserve Detroit's rich history for future generations.
And I thought who better to give us a history lesson than the city's official historian, Jamon Jordan. Take a look.
Black history, African history, world history. I always loved history.
A love Jamon Jordan simply couldn't contain, so he decided to share it with others.
My students were Detroiters, and I felt that I'm cheating them if I'm teaching them about all these other histories and I don't teach them about Detroit.
Touted as the people's historian, Jordan, a native Detroiter, spent a decade in the classroom teaching social studies to middle school students. And when he added Detroit's history to the curriculum, he quickly learned his middle schoolers weren't the only ones curious to learn more.
Many of their parents who would go on field trips with the students, they would say, hey, you mean I've been living around the corner from this historic site and that happened?
Jordan says their interest, paired with the interest of other adults, ignited a desire to do more. And in 2013, he launched the Black Scroll Network, History and Tours, leading tours that explore Black history in and around the city of Detroit, while changing the way Black history is taught and understood.
Black people have been taught in America for the most part, in most historical settings, in most college settings, in most school settings, that their history begins when someone else does something to them. Black people are actors. They're subjects. They do things. And those things are important, not just the things that happen to them. It's important for us to learn about slavery. It's important for us to learn about the civil rights movement and discrimination and Jim Crow. But it's also important to learn about what Black people have created on their own with no regard to some other actor acting upon Black people.
A lesson especially important in the city of Detroit, where about 80% of its population is Black, from enslaved Africans and indigenous people to being a major station on the Underground Railroad to a Black economic and residential center known as Black Bottom, the very place I met Jordan for this story.
We're standing at a site where so much history happened, but we can't see that history except in the legacy that it created. We see it when we go to Motown or when we listen to Motown. We see it when we're listening to jazz musicians.
And we hear it when talking to Jordan, who says Detroit history is undoubtedly Black history.
The people who are the heroes and sheroes and great ones, the great people, places, and events that have happened in the city of Detroit, the people who were involved in that, they actually did a lot of work. I'm just telling their story.
And in telling the story, Jordan's made some history of his own, becoming the first city historian in Detroit. And all that he does, it's evident. He's carrying the torch and bearing the culture while ensuring the stories of the city are not only preserved, but also celebrated.
I see this Detroit culture. I see Black Bottom. I see Paradise Valley. I see all of the things that help make Detroit what it is.
And a part of preserving our culture is ensuring there's space for future generations to continue our legacy. Did you know there's less than 10 Black senior car designers globally?
That's right. One of them is right here in Detroit. Earl Lucas is Lincoln's chief exterior designer. He tells us that he feels it's his responsibility to further the legacy.
Anything you see on the outside of the car, I have the responsibility of making sure the customers react to it.
Earl Lucas is the embodiment of what it means to dream big.
Growing up with a Lincoln, seeing my granddad drive a Lincoln, and thinking that car was so sharp, and then to design Lincolns, you can't plan that kind of stuff, right?
His car design career has spanned more than 25 years, and the road that got him here started when he was just a young boy following his passion.
As a kid, I always wanted to be a creative and a tinkerer. I mean, so I have the best job in terms of creating shapes that people will see. And as a child, my mother took me around to see all these different types of things. She was an interior decorator, so the question of what if and what the next thing could be was something that I learned at an early age. So my mother was probably the heaviest influence in terms of me and the job that I have today.
Lucas is the chief exterior designer for the Lincoln Motor Company. Simply put, every intricate detail on these breathtaking vehicles came directly from his mind.
The etching, the details, the Lincoln Star that you saw in the back of the car?
From the signature LED lighting throughout the vehicle to the glossy black label grills, it's impressive to see, and there are even more details than what initially meets the eye.
And that type of graduating graphic, if you will, is repeated in the headlamps and it's repeated in the tail lamps.
He graduated from the College for Creative Studies in Detroit. His career has taken him places that he would have never imagined, and he takes none of it for granted.
I have the responsibility of living up to the legacy. And there have been folks that have come before me. But now that I have the baton, it's my responsibility to take it further.
Lucas started his career with Ford back in 1999 as a senior designer. He's won numerous awards and maintained a brand of excellence wherever he's gone along the way.
Before Lincoln, I did get a chance to work on the exterior styling of the Taurus. So for those tailgate moments, right? It led me to the job that I have now. And Taurus is always, I look fondly on designing that car.
Now he uses his life as a reminder for others that anything is possible with hard work, dedication, and consistency.
Anything's possible, right? I didn't get here by accident. There was a lot of late nights, a lot of hard nights, but I was focused on what I needed to do, and I made those appropriate sacrifices at the time. So what they should learn is that anything is possible, but you do have to pay for it. My mother and father, the both of them together, the combination of them really allowed this to happen. My mom gave me the ideas of what if. My dad gave me the sense of do it now.
Lucas has more than 100 automotive design patents under his belt. His career has taken him to China, the United Kingdom, and Germany. Despite being able to see the world, he still says that Detroit is special.
I've always was a creative, grew up drawing comic books and, just really loving to create and paint and draw. And Detroit has been awfully good to me. I found my wife here. I found a career here. So Detroit is special to me.
One of the greatest joys of Detroit is that there's nuggets of history everywhere you turn.
Yeah, Detroiters have had a front row seat to everything from the labor movement to the civil rights movement.
And Reverend Horace Sheffield III is certainly someone who can speak to the importance of leadership, also honoring those who've paved the way.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here with us today. We appreciate it. So I know your childhood was spent surrounded by some of the world's greatest leaders. And how much did they impact you and you being in Detroit?
Tremendously. I mean, I knew from a very early age the guy that placed me in this historical context. To know Dr. King and Walter Ruth, and Roy Wilkins, Whitney Young. Unlike today where people take selfies and say, I was here, I knew that, I was to get something from it. I was supposed to learn something and figure out how to take that with me to carry it on in future generations.
And there are challenges that come with that type of leadership. Your father and some of his colleagues, for example, had targets on their backs.
Sure.
You saw that, but you still chose to follow that path and continue on. What gave you the courage to keep fighting?
Well, you know, my dad was actually part of the House Un-American Activities Committee, had a red file and all of that, you know, and there were times we would get up and pray because we thought the Klan had him. I mean, it taught me that, you know, the only thing to fear is God. I mean, if it's a righteous cause, if you're doing something that's going to help other people, I mean, the bigger fear should be allowing them to languish in the despair and the threat that they're facing.
Well, we all know the phrase, those who don't know their history will repeat it.
Yes.
What do you want the next generation of Detroiters to know?
Well, I think, you know, we have to put together another progressive coalition. There's so many things happening in our nation right now. And I talk about the working poor. We have folks who go to work every day who cannot afford heat or food or whatever. So Detroiters need to know that we can organize. We can do something about that. Don't sit back and just have empathy when you see a story on CBS News. As attractive as the two of you are, I mean, you got to really figure out, what can I do? This is a generation has to figure out what they can contribute and not just live off of what someone else sacrificed.
You've already accomplished so much. Your story is still being written. When it comes to your legacy and what you've done, what do you want those future generations to remember about you and just to look back on in terms of what you've been able to achieve?
Well, I always say, you know, when I'm gone, just they come look at me at the cemetery, view my plot, say, here lies a man who loved God and people and sought to serve both. I mean, I just want to do everything I can to help others. My great-grandmother and my grandmother always had a little saying that the more you do for others, the less you have to worry about yourself. And I would say, why, Grandma? She said, God takes care of you for taking care of them.
Wow, words of wisdom.
Well, yeah, it's such a beautiful legacy to live. Thank you so much
Appreciate
for being
it.
here with us.
Yes.
After the break, we continue our series on those preserving our past while inspiring our future. Stay with us.
CBS News Detroit is proud to celebrate Black History Month. In 1950, after negotiating an armistice agreement between Israel and the Arab states, Detroit-born Ralph Bunche became the first African American to receive the Nobel Peace Prize.
Welcome back. One of the biggest challenges our culture faces is a lack of support.
Yeah, photojournalist Aaron Bryan introduces us to the woman who is working to prevent a brain drain of Detroit's creative talent.
Business brings people to Detroit, but it's art that makes them stay. Art defines the way we live. Art is what we have when we are away from the job, you know, off the grind, and everything else that makes life worth living. That's what art and culture are. And if we don't pay attention to that and preserve that and celebrate that, we're not even really living. Art is business. Every dancer is a small business. Every actor is a small business. Every musician is a small business. And I want people to understand that we have one of the greatest creative workforces in America. Advocacy is when you do more than just like or praise, you actually fight for. So I fight for artists. I want to make sure that they are compensated based on their excellence. I want to make sure that every young artist in Detroit knows that they can stay in Detroit and be great. We don't have to train them to be great and then watch them go off to New York or Atlanta or Cleveland, for God's sake. I have friends in Cleveland, so I need to stop saying that, but they got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Like, how you gonna have the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and we're Detroit? I was in journalism for my whole career because it's all I ever wanted to do. I finished my career after almost 20 years as a columnist at the Detroit Free Press, nationally syndicated, very outspoken. People know. I tell it like it is, told it like it was, will continue to tell what's necessary. I wrote to make things happen, embracing people who are doing what I did. If you've got somebody who's doing some painting that literally explains the pain and trauma of what it means to remain enslaved in America because we're still fighting for freedom, lift that up. I don't have to write that. I can make sure somebody's seeing that. If somebody's writing some music that is stunning and award-worthy and speaks to all of these things that I used to write about, lift that up and let them do it. I want my shoulders to carry anybody who wants to continue to do what I was doing. Making sure we teach American children all of American history. All the American history that we taught that leaves out Black history is inadequate education. And if people just learned it, they would have their cheeks bursting and their chest poked out all the time because it is an amazing, amazing story. Detroiters have to be culture bearers by necessity. We have to stop looking down on ourselves or thinking that people don't respect us. You know, when Tommy did Detroit versus everybody, I'm like, but, you know, do we really want to be the people that everybody are, you know, at some point we have to be Detroit plus everybody. I want people to lift up how great we are. I want people to see how resilient we are. After years of telling people, I'll never get a tattoo, I got my first tattoo, and it says resilient. And I put it this way so when I shake people's hands, they can see it. And every now and again, I do this so that I can see it. And that's what Detroit is. It's resilient. Detroit will always be here.
Speaking of retaining homegrown talent, I spoke with multidisciplinary artist Tiff Massey about what it meant to have her work featured in the renowned Detroit Institute of Arts.
When the DIA asked me to participate, it was in response to their permanent collection. So I chose 2 pieces from their permanent collection to respond to. And the 2 artists that I selected are in every contemporary art museum. It's like, yo, stack my stack, like, let's go. I mean, it's really like a battle of aesthetics, and then also like I can be at the same caliber as you, you know. Black woman from 7 Mile, like, let's go.
Her exhibition, named after the community she grew up in, pays homage to Detroit's Black culture, the sense of style, the act of adornment, and the artistry of hair. Massey says seeing a reflection of the Detroit she knows in this type of space is critical.
I think the legacy is really developing these spaces at the DIA, but for it to have a permanent space so we can always see reflections of ourselves.
Representation is so incredibly important in art, especially in a city like Detroit.
And as we continue this conversation about Detroit's art scene, we have to mention the DIA, which is truly a gem in our city's crown.
So let's bring in Lane Coleman, the board chair for the DIA. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, Lane, we can't get enough of the DIA. That exhibition in particular, talking to Tiff Massey, it was incredible. And so we know the DIA, it strives to make sure that each visitor finds a personal meaning and connection. What does it mean to have artists like Tiff Massey featured there and their work on display?
Well, Tiff's exhibit is incredible. If you haven't seen it, I recommend you go. First of all, 7 Mile in Livernois. I mean, the Avenue of Fashion. It's a staple in the community. I actually happen to live in the community, and I'm not originally from Detroit, and I love the area. Just to highlight some of the things that Tiff has done, she's the first Black female to graduate from Cranbrook's metalsmithing program with a MF degree. Her exhibit, we budgeted 60,000 people for the entire year.
Yeah.
She's exceeded 150,000 already, and we still have May to go.
Yeah.
Tiff is bringing in people to the museum, believe it or not, that have never been in the museum before. And one of my visions as the board chair is just to do that, because you have small people and people in the community that have never been in this museum. So I get you in the door to see Tiff, and while you're there, guess what? People don't realize the Detroit Institute of Art was the first museum in this country to own a Rembrandt, to own a Van Gogh. We have Picasso's. We're the first museum in the country to establish an environment for African American art. We started that in 2000, just to focus on it. In 2007, we're the first encyclopedic museum in this country to establish galleries for African American art. So the DIA is a special place, and to add to that, it's free. Admissions to Oakland, Macomb, and Wayne County residents.
Yeah, and I think having that access and having an artist like that ensuring a level of access for people is so important.
Yeah, it absolutely is. We also know that you are a member of the African and African American Art Auxiliary Group through the DIA. You have an extensive collection yourself, so that's something that's important to you. Why is it important for you to be able to have those pieces yourself, and also just to celebrate and support those artists?
Well, when I grew up, there was no fine art in my home. So my parents, God bless them, when they bought the furniture, they bought the pieces that were hanging in the wall in the furniture store, which were probably posters in really nice, beautiful frames. So I think it's very important that our culture understands African American art and art as a whole. Art it's mind-blowing. It's environmentally changing. it can set you on a whole different trajectory. And I'm a person that can explain to you, I'm one. I mean, I didn't grow up with fine art. I got exposed to it in college, and I've been collecting ever since.
Yeah, that's incredible. And we know the DIA, it has had a number of events this month, and you all are continuing that. One thing is the Chicago Steppers Ball. We love to hustle in Detroit, but I know you're a Chicago native.
I step. So, hey.
So what did it mean to you to ensure that that part of your culture, Black culture, was represented at the DIA?
Well, I have to admit, Tiff Massey, the stepping, I had nothing to do with that. We have a planning committee. We planned that way before I was in place. It just kind of worked out that this all happened. So the DIA has been very, very progressive in putting these type of programs in place for the city. And they realize that Detroit being 75% African American, you know, that's a big part of our market, and we need to cater to it.
Yeah, you know, we're losing some of those art forms, especially with the internet. People are always online, never leaving the house. What are some of the things that people can do to support what you all are doing, and also just to support those local artists themselves?
Well, I think it's important that you come out. I tell young people, especially the ones that are at that dating age, it is a great, inexpensive date. We have a facility inside of the DIA known as the Kresge Court. I call it very similar to a Starbucks. You can get a glass of wine, a cup of coffee. We have other exhibits. People just think it's all about African American art. I'm a collector of all art. Probably 70% of what I have is African American, but I have artists from all areas, all parts of the world, and that's the beauty of the DIA. With all these things that are going on in our country, you can come to the museum, and guess what? We can agree to disagree. And I love to ask someone, how do you feel about either you? I like to start, do you really love it, or do you just don't like it? And let's start there. And guess what? We'll have a discussion. Maybe we can change each other's mind, but when we leave, we walk away, and we're still friends.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, Lane, thank you so much for stopping by, for the insight, and for the work you do. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much. You guys got to come out and see us, please.
We do. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
LA didn't make me. Chicago didn't make me. They didn't elect me. Detroit took a chance on a young street youth who became a lawyer, a political servant, a community servant, took a chance on voting for me, and it paid off.
We continue our Culture Bears series ahead, speaking with Detroit's Judge Mathis about the power of a second chance.
CBS News Detroit is proud to celebrate Black History Month. Michigan-born Lottie Wilson fought for women's rights and desegregation in the 1800s and was one of the first African Americans to have her art on permanent display in the White House.
Welcome back. We continue to highlight those culture bearers shining a positive light on the city of Detroit wherever they go. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis is a great example of that.
Yeah, and his journey to becoming a household name wasn't easy. It took grit and determination. But regardless of how far his career has taken him, he tells us he will always represent his city.
If you believe in yourself and prepare yourself, you can outcompete the next person.
Judge Greg Mathis is a shining example of what it looks like to live a life of second chances.
I had gotten a second chance as a street kid, caught with a gun, and tried as an adult at age 17, and the judge gave me a second chance.
Surrounded by poverty, Judge Mathis was raised in a rough Detroit neighborhood. With a single mother of 4 boys, life wasn't easy. He says that pressure led to him making some bad choices, but it was his own life lessons on the other side of the bench that got him here.
It was my commitment to troubled youth, particularly troubled Black inner city youth here, which is what I was. After coming out of college, I began working for the city council here in Detroit. Later, I joined the staff of Mayor Young, doing the same thing, working in the community. I operated a district city hall for Mayor Young, which had me engaged in the community. And so when Mayor Young retired in '92, I began practicing law.
Initially, his law license was blocked because of his background, so he took the case to the state Supreme Court and won.
They attacked me because of my background, but the deal was the community people knew me because I had served them so long. And so that became the route to success, service. And so it was that service that caused the people to vote for me beyond what the media was trying to portray me as. And when I won, it was national success story. Former street kid goes from jail to judge in 15 years. And of course, you know, Hollywood likes a good story.
His no-nonsense style and witty humor have helped him relate to viewers for decades. The popular TV judge has reached success that as a child he would have never imagined. Sometimes Judge Mathis says even he forgets how successful he is.
You know, your mind is still, hey, if you talk crazy to me, I'm gonna talk crazy back to you, so what you wanna do? Well, I'm a judge, I'm one of us looked up to as society, but I don't look at that as myself. I look at it as just Greg who don't take no.
But he says his biggest achievement is the lives that he's touched along the way.
We've used this experience to help others. I think we've changed, at least I'm told frequently when I'm in public by mothers and by young adults that I helped change their life, that I inspired them, etc. So that's what's brought us the most fulfillment with my television career. I tell people so frequently, LA didn't make me. Chicago didn't make me. Detroit took a chance on a young street youth who became a lawyer, a political servant, a community servant, took a chance on voting for me, and it paid off.
Committed to the community that made him, Judge Mathis owns the Mathis Community Center. It's in Detroit near Greenfield and 7 Mile.
And to honor his commitment to Detroiters, the city named Mathis Avenue in his honor in 2009. The street is home to the new housing development that replaced the ones he grew up in.
At times, the culture bearers aren't the ones who are front and center. They're actually working in the background.
Photojournalist Chris McKnight takes us behind the lens to meet the trailblazing Detroiter redefining sports photography.
Once I started getting attention, it became like I am Black history. And it's not a bad thing, right? But like as a child, when you're going through all these history books and you're in classes where they're like, this person is Black history, and you're going, you're like, me? You know, I am Black history. I was at the Federal Reserve doing a Black history talk, and I was first Black female in the NHL, and that's what I was really there for, is to kind of talk about my experiences about that. Someone also asked the question, you know, if someone approached you or you got a job with the NBA, would you take it? Would you move from hockey to the NBA? 7-8 months later, I'm sitting here. I never set out to be Black history, because I didn't. I think sometimes you are presented with unique opportunities that then you try to become that. And you know, and sometimes you're sitting up here like, man, I am not this, but my title says this. I'm very intrigued when I am watching the game through my lens, but more so than anything else, I'm trying to make something that's very, I guess, reflective of our players. I have the leeway to be creative, a lot more creative, I feel like. I think with photojournalism in general, the thing that you go for is the action, the high point in the moment, right? Though with this, yes, someone will lose the game, but I can also tell the in-game moments, the expressions on the players' faces sitting on the bench. I like the off-court moments. You know, the feel-good stories, what players do off the court, their styles, their intricate details, which is why the photography part has been my career. Because not everybody looks at it the same way. We're all different. It's been fun, you know? Some of it has been hard, absolutely, but different places offer a wide variety of people that you just never know who you come in contact with, and they could really change your trajectory of your career. And that's really what I love about my job, is being able to tell stories and taking pictures of folks. It's been amazing.
After the break, we introduce you to an educator encouraging the next generation of Detroiters and students around the world to learn out loud.
Paradise Valley is where all of the businesses were located that were established by African Americans. They were restricted because of discrimination and segregation here in the North. They pretty much focused on living in and building those communities. You had the Paradise Theater and the Gotham Hotel and Horseshoe Bar that you see here, and a number of thriving businesses.
Welcome back. Everyone has that one teacher that changed the way they looked at learning, the one that made it enjoyable.
And for many students, that teacher is Mr. E in the D. Photojournalist Chris McKnight introduces us to his philosophy of learning out loud.
Mr. E is like the Mr. Rogers from Detroit. I want kids to really feel that they're doing something great.
You guys know what we're going to be today?
We're gonna be pirates!
That's right.
The adventures of being a kid and the adventures of learning, they go hand in hand. There's just so many negative things that are pulling at our kids, and I just want them to see that you can be excited about things that you're truly passionate about.
What do pirates say?
Ahoy, matey!
Learning out loud is something that I am truly passionate about.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
My style was my style, and my style is loud. The way that I dress, the way that I interact with the kids, the way that I greet, the way that I teach, it's all loud, but it's my version.
Hey, Captain Cowboy.
Arr!
I like to give children the liberty to learn outside of their seat, singing loud. And it's not just in kindergarten or preschool. Like, kids love to sing, kids love to move. Let's allow them to move and not have them get in trouble for the movement because they're kids. It is a battle between the negative and the positive, but you know, and I'm not the only one. But I think that just kids just having fun, and also my show is it's a family tool, so families love to watch it together. Families love to listen to the music together. So I also use this show as like a family engagement tool. What I do need for you to do is to talk to someone that you trust, because talking to them is going to help you move to and through the funk that you're in. You can shine your light, and the light will be seen by many, even sometimes you don't even know it, you know, so the nice guys finish right on time.
Darnell Davis is a wig maker to the stars, working with the likes of Beyonce, Mariah Carey, and Niecy Nash.
And he tells our Walter Murphy that his journey to success was possible due to the special attention that he received as a student at University Prep.
So I was really like one of those troubled kids. I always got into like chaos, but I had a passion to like want to be successful, right? But I didn't know what that looked like and how to stay focused on that. But as I look back at it now, there was this teacher, Miss Hain, that introduced me to crocheting, and she would give me attention in like a way that nobody had in a long time. But she would sit me down with that hook and just like teach me how to knit. And as I look at my career now, it's literally the exact same thing that I do, but on a more microscopic level with tying hair onto the wig lace.
And Davis says that type of mentorship is what encourages him to pay it forward to the next generation.
I guess one of my biggest missions too is to make sure that every little black boy or little black girl from Detroit, I'm from the Jeffrey Projects, can like literally see themselves going to the next level. Like, and for me, it was Beyonce, but like whatever that thing is that you love, you can do it even though your environment doesn't always look like it's possible. It's about your dedication.
And speaking of not letting your environment limit your dreams, Veronica Ortega introduces us to Jason Bay.
Yeah, he's the first black beekeeper in Flint. The urban farmer raises bees in his backyard, and he educates the community of the importance of bees.
Jason Bay restocks his display inside the shops on Saginaw with more honey.
Beekeeping is like social work. It's an ever-changing process, and it's something that's always happening that you're going to learn from.
Bay's journey to small business ownership started after an injury caused severe nerve damage.
It made it hard for me to gain employment and keep employment. I got laid off.
During the pandemic, while on the hunt for a new job, he had a thought.
Where does honey come from and how is it made? And can I do beekeeping in Michigan?
After visiting a local farmer's market, he learned the answer was yes.
I basically started educating myself about the ins and outs of beekeeping.
That's how My Bee's Nest LLC was born. Bay built an apiary in his backyard in the city.
It was something that I could do to make a stable income, support myself, maintain my health.
Bay says during harvest season, he collects about 80 gallons of honey. And 5 years into the beekeeping industry, he's up to 10 different flavors.
It's always different every time you go inside of a beehive. Even with the seasons changing, you know, you have different flowers and trees that are in bloom that the bees get nectar from and pollen from in the spring and in the fall.
His advice for young entrepreneurs trying to start their own small business?
Don't give up on yourself, for one. If you have an idea of a business and you want to see if it's going to work, follow through with it.
Bay says he hopes My Bee's Nest LLC will continue to grow and make an impact in the community. In Flint, Veronica Ortega, CBS News, Detroit.
Well, music is at the heart and soul of Detroit's culture. Ahead, we introduce you to the group of teens keeping the music alive while finding their voice.
The Underground Railroad here in Michigan was regarded as the main terminus, specifically through the city of Detroit because of its close proximity to Canada. There were these safe houses operated by conductors. You had Seymour Finney, George the Baptiste, and William Lambert here in Detroit. And then westward all the way up to Battle Creek, where Sojourner Truth made her home.
So Detroit is known all over the world as Motown because of the impact that Berry Gordy and his artists had on the sound and artistic direction of the entire industry.
Yeah, photojournalist Ferlin Webster Jr. shows us that decades later, the Detroit Youth Choir remains committed to upholding that standard of world-class artistry while learning their own history.
You ready? Let's go from the top. 1, 2, 3, and go to trouble. It kind of hurts them to sing that because they like, why do we got to sit here and learn these spirituals to wait? And then y'all go low, go low. Spirituals, the Negro spiritual is the most important piece of music ever. I tell our young people, without hip hop, without R&B, we still have spirituals. Spirituals are always going to be here, and it's very important to teach our young people the history of the spiritual as well. Oh, children.
It's my first time hearing those songs. I haven't really been exposed to a lot of Negro spirituals besides like slave movies. So this is like a really good chance for us to get introduced to that kind of stuff. God's gonna trouble the water.
Detroit has a legacy of music, and what we do as an organization is we try to preserve the music that comes out the city. We pride ourselves in carrying on that tradition because I saw growing up the way Motown had its artists. You know, the artists like the Temptations and the J5, all of them had some type of artistic direction. Y'all ready? We wanted to add that to the Detroit Youth Choir. And so far, we've done a great job. Go.
Any other choir will just give you the sheet music and say, sing these notes. DYC wants you to feel those notes and wants the audience to feel those notes.
With these spiritual, y'all gotta hit it. That's a song where you have to sing with so much emotion. You have to get loud, you have to go soft, you have to go medium. Basically, I was just taking them through the motions. Wade in the water, gods. Like that, because there's no more Motown. Okay, let's go. But there's the Detroit Youth Choir. And since 2019, we kind of been out here putting Detroit on the map when it comes to music. Oh, children. I feel that the Detroit Youth Choir is culture. I think we should go down in the history books as one of the first African-American choirs to reach such a height.
Looks like the band that Moses led. God's gonna trouble the water.
I really believe that we're a direct representation of what culture is for the city of Detroit. And you know, we love our city. We represent our city so well. And our young people are ambassadors.
So wait in
the water.
Children, go on and wait.
God's all gonna.
Well, thank you so much for joining us as we highlighted those preserving the most critical parts of Detroit's history.
And the work doesn't stop here. There is something that we can all do to preserve our history and amplify it for generations to come.
Detroit history.
Detroit history.
Detroit history is Black history.
Black history.
Black history. Detroit history is Black history.
It's Black history.
It's Black history.
Black history.
Detroit history
is
Black
Black
history.